dinner today and discuss those things in a practical way. So I hope you do this when you go home. The topics I would discuss might be sensitive, especially in the presence of some very young boys and girls today, but things that we cannot shy away from. As I was thinking about this topic, just flying in and in the last few days, this is what came to my mind as to the challenges of Muslim youth. Challenge number one, and I do put it as number one, lack of spirituality. The number one challenge for Muslim youth. Lack of spirituality. The definition of spirituality is rather important for us to understand, to know what it is I'm talking about. Spirituality, from an Islamic spiritual framework, is peace of mind, peace of heart, peace of soul, and peace of flesh. So when I say lack of spirituality, I mean lack of the presence of peaceful mind, peaceful heart, peaceful soul, and peaceful body. When someone asks me, how do you know if someone is spiritually grounded or not grounded? I say one of the examples. If he or she gets angry too often and too much about everything, they are not spiritually grounded. From the holistic Islamic understanding of spirituality. Unfortunately, for so many Muslims, spirituality means salah and dua and dhikr. This is an absolutely wrong understanding of the Islamic concept of spirituality. So Islamic concept of spirituality is somehow connected to the concept of holistic health. By the way, how many doctors do we have in the room, or scientists? From 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 2 psychiatric doctors, mashallah, from Georgetown. The traditional Islamic understanding of the human person is rather important to understand. If you go back and study how Muslim doctors in the 12th century, in the 10th century, in the 9th century wrote about Islamic biomedical ethics, they all said that the human person is made of 4 equal components: mind, heart, soul, and body. And to create a spiritual person, you have to ensure that you are taking care of the 4 components of who you are equally. So if all you care about is your soul, but you're not taking care of your mind, you are not fully spiritual and you are not fully healthy. If all you do is sit in the library and read and do research and write homework, but do not take care of your heart, you are not fully spiritual and you are not fully healthy. There are wonderful professors who write wonderful books, but at home, they are not people fun to be around. They write good books and they can intellectually engage you, but they cannot emotionally engage you. I do marital counseling a lot. And I talk often about emotional intelligence. Someone whose wife or husband is a doctor, maybe has 3 PhDs. Or your son might have memorized the Quran at age 7 or 8. But they are giving you a hard time. Because we have not holistically taken care of them, trained them in a balanced way. So from an Islamic spiritual framework, to be healthy and to be spiritual, you have to take care of those 4 components on equal footing. For example, it is an act of worship and a spiritual act to walk in nature. How many of us actually see hiking as a spiritual exercise? As a mental exercise? I don't want you to answer me, I want you to think about this. Going to the gym as a spiritual exercise. Reading a book on psychology or on physics or on chemistry as a spiritual exercise in terms of how it connects with my heart. How often do we see watching a movie with my kids at home as a spiritual exercise rather than just time for fun? So when I say lack of spirituality, an important challenge our youth are facing, that's what I mean. Because it trained our kids in Sunday schools that spirituality and to be spiritual, and sometimes we mix between spirituality and religiosity, is when you do 5 daily prayers or when you memorize the Quran. But what comes after that, it ends right there. That's, my friends, lack of spirituality. So how do you know that you have that lack of spirituality? If you have anger issues, you get frustrated easily. You are envious of others easily. You are jealous. You have the tendency of becoming violent. This is how you know that spiritually you need to work on yourself. Or you have a tendency to be disrespectful of people around you. Or you tend to be rude when you speak to others, whether at work, in a shopping center, or at home. All of those, my friends, are ways by which you see whether you are spiritually connected or not connected, grounded or not grounded. Yes, lack of salah is a part of it. Lack of dua is a part of it. Lack of ibadah and sawm and fasting is a part of it. But when you think of the hadith of Abdullah ibn Abbas, during which the Prophet ﷺ told Abdullah ibn Abbas, Ya ghulam, O young man, ihfad Allah yahfadak. Sort of protect Allah's image in your mind and heart, Allah will protect you. Guard yourself in the presence of Allah, Allah will guard you. Think of Allah, Allah will think of you. Walk towards Allah, and Allah will walk towards you. When you ask Allah. When you seek refuge, seek refuge in Allah. All of those are examples by which we transform our understanding of holistic care into morals and ethics. So this is number one challenge. Number two, Islamophobia. How can Islamophobia be a challenge for our youth? Yesterday I had an event and I heard from one of our Georgetown alumni at the dinner, and he said this, and it really hit me, and it was so strong. He said, I was not around back on September 11 to understand the impact of Islamophobia, but I felt it in the last 2 months in ways I have never imagined. The impact of that on him, a professional young man. How many people have decided in the last 2 months to change their names? As I said in my Friday khutbah, my second one yesterday. Mu, Assalamu alaikum. How did you know I'm a Muslim? Because your name is Mu, it must be Muhammad in Arabic. How did you know? Well, people are changing their names. Muhammad to Mu, and Aisha to Ash, and God help. But in a way, it is a reaction to the Islamophobia our kids are facing. Being bullied by their fellow classmates, whether in college or in school or on the street or in the gym. This is a real challenge, my friends. And unless our children, number one, feel that their parents are with them day in and day out, they are going to suffer. If they don't have a way to talk about their issues and how they feel at school and on campus, they're going to suffer from this challenge. There's no outlet. A parent, a father, a mother, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, or an imam, or therapist, they will suffer from this big Islamophobia. One of those things that come out of this Islamophobia is the feeling that I have to pull out and disengage. I see this at Georgetown University. Wonderful kids, smart, intelligent, but they have decided to disengage from everything and focus on their work. But in doing so, they pulled out even from spiritual activities, from being with the community. They feel lonely, suicidal. The number of cases I have dealt with that are suicidal in the last year is beyond what I ever dealt with in 25 years of my work with young men and women. We have, at Georgetown, we had, I think, 3 cases of suicide amongst Muslims. Not in Georgetown campus in Washington, but the one in Qatar. We have a Georgetown in Qatar. And it's real. So when I travel to Qatar to meet with those parents of those children, or meet with the students who were attempting just to commit suicide, the number one thing is we don't have anyone to talk to. And because of that, we disengaged. We became lonely. And then we have, again, 2 wonderful mental health providers here who could tell us more than what I'm even talking about. Because of the impact of Islamophobia. Or, one of the things of Islamophobia, it leads some and has led some Muslim young men and women to leave Islam. Why and how? Because they hear on TV and on radio, and every time they turn on this toy, something bad about Islam. I love it. I love my work at Georgetown because it allows me every month to sit with my kids, with our kids, to have a program called Nothing is Off the Table. Come with any question, every question. Yes, come and challenge the Quran. It's okay. Challenge the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's okay. How is it okay? Muhammad can respond to your challenge intellectually and emotionally and scientifically and scholarly. Come with all that package that you hear in the classroom or you see on TV. And if we cannot provide that information, who will? If we cannot allow them to come and talk, engage us on those issues, who will? The number of young men and women who have left Islam, people I know, or I came to know. I don't need to frighten you tonight, but we wanted, this is the topic. And we need to put the issues on the table to know how to handle them with our kids or with the rest of the community. These are real issues. Atheism is on the rise in Muslim communities. In America, in Europe, maybe in Europe more than in America, where it is more, but so is in the Middle East, by the way. And the problem is not those who provoke us or talk about those issues, it's us. We don't have ways by which we answer these questions on the Quran, or on the Hadith, or on Sirah, or on Sharia. Not because Islam does not have the answer, Islam does. But we have not provided our kids with the right information about Islam. The third thing connected to this Islamophobia thing is often Islamophobes attack the culture of Muslims. And they call that what? Islam. And our kids don't know. Our kids do not know the differentiation between, or the distinction between Islam as a religion and culture. And end up defending something that they should not be defending. I'm going to shock you tonight. And I hope you don't chase me out of the door. I have one I can run out. How old was Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, when the Prophet married her? I'm not going to answer the question. What about if I put on the table this? Some people will say 9, some people say 13, some people say 17, some people say 27, some people say 37, and the last is 24. I am not standing here as a traditional guy who tells you what you have been used to. I'm standing next to you as a scholar who studied these things. You'll be shocked to know that Aisha age was not confirmed by all scholars that it was 9. So in defending, we're defending what we came to think what Aisha was. Or the Islamic concept of jihad. Or the other day one was asking about the concept of martyrdom, shahada, and what shahada really means. Different from so many people think. So my brothers and sisters, our ability to provide our kids with the right, authentic information about Islam is important to meet that challenge. Otherwise, it's a challenge that would push them away from Islam. The next challenge. Disconnect within the family unit. Can I say that enough? Can I say that enough? Disconnect within family unit. At Georgetown University, we have a Muslim mental health specialist who works with the Muslim chaplaincy. She does mental health coaching. And I ask her often, sister, what is it that you deal with a lot? And why and how? She says, I have to help our kids who come to Georgetown deal with how they were conditioned at home to think and operate. Unconditioning them takes a long time. So the dynamics at home affect our young men and women. Children who grew up watching their parents fighting, verbal abuse, and physical abuse. What do you think these kids will end up being? So sister, why do you want to marry a non-Muslim? Because my Muslim father was abusive of my mother and I do not want to marry someone like that. Are you hearing me? Or sister, why do you accept this abusive relationship? My mother was used to it, so I'm like my mother. I have to accept abusive relationships. That's the norm. So our children are watching their parents in fights all the time, and therefore it's a challenge for them personally, spiritually, mentally, professionally, and socially. The dynamics of relationship between parents and children is also a challenge. Not only the watching my parents fighting, is watching the parent acting with the other child is a challenge. Or disconnect because father comes home at 11 p.m. and mother comes home at 8 p.m. and the kids have yet to see their parents, and the only time they may have some time is Sunday morning when they are dropped off at the school. These are real issues. The unconditioning we do on campus to help our kids deal with this challenge is real. People who are busy making money, building larger homes, but realize when their children are now maturing, wait a minute, why are they not listening to me anymore? Maybe you were not present in their lives when they were growing up. Or maybe when you gave up on them to the high school, or to the rest of the society to train them and form them. So leaving our kids to non-Muslims to raise them, or to un-Islamic values to shape them. No wonder that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, O you who have faith, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O you who have faith, protect yourselves and your families from hellfire. Hellfire, the hellfire of the life to come, but the hellfire of life. If you do not care for your kids, you are putting them on fire, my friends. If you do not invest the best of what you have, your energy, your time, your money, your number one investment should be not in making more dollars, but rather in making better hearts and souls. The story of Luqman in the Quran is another important story. Where قال لقمان, you know, the idea of Luqman and the connection between Luqman and his son. The story of Ibrahim and how he communicated with his dad. Or the hadith, كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته, that each and every one of you is a shepherd. The man and the woman. It's a challenge, my friends. And believe me, I see the impact of broken families, or kids who come from broken internally or broken with divorce families. Divorce is a practical thing sometimes. It's the right thing to do sometimes, not against divorce if it has to. What brings us there, and how do we deal with our children if we end up with divorce? So much stuff I could put on the table with this challenge of disconnect within the family unit. Number 4, heightened sexuality. TV, Hollywood movies, and now phones that you see everywhere. Again, pornography and using pornography. There's a study that I saw recently, I don't know how accurate it is, that I think it said 71% of Muslim kids under the age of 15 have had access to pornography. Wallahi, it's like, it brought me to tears. This is real. You are sitting watching TV or barbecuing outside, but you don't know what information your kids have access to it. It's a real challenge. It stays in their mind. It affects how they interact with you as a parent, how they interact with the opposite gender at home and outside of home. Heightened sexuality in our schools. You don't want me to address the issue of LGBTQ and the impact of regardless of how you see the issue. It's issues that your kids are dealing with. Heightened sexuality. In music industry and sexuality, marketing industry and sexuality. At the same time, your kids cannot act upon what they see on those images. Everyone is talking about it, from their class, school teacher, to their classmates, to their friends, leading them to frustration with God, with their religion, with their family, and sometimes with themselves. No wonder the Quran addresses the issue of sexual ethics in a holistic way. There is no time to address now. But the fact that the Quran addressed sexual ethics tells us it is a challenge that the Ummah will face, if not humanity. So how do we deal with this challenge and heightened sexuality that is on the rise, especially in the United States of America? The next challenge, lack of purposeful life. Why are we? What are we about? What are we meant to do? I sit with our kids often at Georgetown University, our students, and when I travel to meet young men and women, I do retreats for youth. So usually I have from 24 hours to 48 hours with them. And I listen, and I hear, and I hear. Often, kids who have no idea of the purpose for which they live. In them are confused about life, confused about religion, confused about what they should or should not be doing, confused about their family. Is it about jobs? And what is it for the job? Brands, carrying brands, buying brands. How do we define for them, why am I taking them on a fun trip? Is it for a purpose or just for fun? And how do we define fun for them? Hiking, gym, even going to the masjid. Do I discuss with my kids the purpose for which I go to the gym with them? Do hiking with them, have fun events with them, watch movies with them. If we do not teach our kids and condition them to understand why we do what we do, everything of what we do, they will end up growing up without having a purposeful life for which they live. They end up also raising a generation that is with no purpose. Next challenge. One of the challenges where parents tell their children that they need to disengage from the rest of the society and stay at home in order to protect them from the germs of the society. We tell them that. But in doing that, we're not helping them. Taking our kids out of school, putting them at home, may not be the best thing to do. Actually, it adds another challenge to you and to them. Training them to engage with the society is rather important. But how do we engage with the society without giving up on our morality and our ethics? Another challenge. Our Islamic Sunday schools, I believe, as someone who has traveled across the United States of America, often pose a challenge. I don't mean to say anything bad about Sunday schools. They have done so much good. But again, since I'm talking about challenges, I need to speak about this. Sometimes we do not teach our children the holistic understanding of Islam. Or we teach them cultural Islam, not Quranic Islam, not the prophetic Islam. Because we did not want them, or we don't want them to grow up Muslims as much as Arab Muslims, as much as Egyptian Muslim or Pakistani Muslim. It becomes more about the culture than the religion. That poses a challenge for our kids. Because when they leave home and go to college and meet with Muslims everywhere, they are really confused about their identity. What is their identity? The last challenge here is what I wrote here is believing in what I call the internet Islam. Someone did a study recently and found out that 89% of internet websites that answer the question on Islam are designed by non-Muslims. 89% is so threatening. And I don't know if this is even real. Someone needs to do another study. But when I heard the study, it really frightened me. I tried to do myself. I went to 30 websites, people who educate non-Muslims about Islam. Out of those, I found 17 owned by non-Muslims. So imagine the kind of Islam we are exposing our kids to without knowing. Or now, many of us who want to know about Islam, let's ask Imam Google. Hey, Imam Google says, Imam Hendi will not understand you, but Imam Google said, wait a minute. Or the Hadith says, or the Quran says. They cut and paste, they take out of context, forgetting that when it comes to the Quran, specifically the Quran, a text without a context is what? A pretext. A text without a context is a pretext. And often these ayat and hadith are taken out of context and therefore misunderstood and misinterpreted and do not give you the right message of Islam for Muslims and non-Muslims. These are some challenges, and there are many more, but this is not the time to go through every one of them. Now, some opportunities. Number one, the number one opportunity for our Muslim youth brothers and sisters, as simple as one word, the Quran. The Quran is an opportunity for your kids. What do I mean by that? When you teach them the true message of the Quran, that's an opportunity. They become more merciful. They become more compassionate. They become more balanced. You know, at Georgetown University, we just inaugurated our masjid. And we took some time navigating what ayat we want to put on the wall. We decided to quote the first few ayat from Surah 55, Surah Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman. Why? With the hope that we send our kids back home having understood one of the most important paradigms of the Quranic teachings, which is the concept of what? Of rahmah and compassion. If you teach your children the Quran, if you expose them to the Quran, if you allow them to understand the Quran, not only memorize the Quran, brothers and sisters, you have given them the best way to be proud Muslims, to grow up Muslims, to navigate the challenges in the right way. But even in that surah, there are two definitions that are repeated more than one time. The concept of rahmah and the concept of mizan, balance. If you teach your children to grow up compassionate and balanced, they will be good kids, inshallah. Can I say that enough? Compassion and what? And balance. I don't want my kids to memorize the Quran by word. I want them to understand the Quran as well in a balanced way. I don't want them to pray 20,000 rak'ahs of qiyam every weekend. But I want them, with every rak'ah, they learn about morals and ethics in a balanced way. I want them to learn the need to go to the masjid, but also the need to do social justice events. That's balance. That sitting with their mothers and fathers, I hope with fathers, in the kitchen. Yeah, fathers work in the kitchen too. Wallahi, it's important. Imagine teaching my kids that I and my wife cook together. Then we go to the masjid together. Then we sit down and laugh together. Then we discuss Palestine and Kashmir together. All done in a balanced way. So number one opportunity is teaching them the Quran as such. Number two, Sharia is an opportunity. Learning it. Imam Ibn Qayyim says, الشريعة مبناها على العدل والرحمة فما نزع منه أيهما فليس من الشريعة في شيء. Sharia is built on two foundations: justice and compassion. Any fiqh matter, I'm going to read that. Sharia is built on justice and on compassion. Anything that is of fiqh nature that does not have mercy and justice is not Sharia. Imagine when you teach your children this value of Islam. It's good. Assalamu alaikum. I love you. Hey, give me a big hug. A big hug. A big hug. That's a good vibe, yeah? MashaAllah. So when you teach your children that Sharia is built on justice and on rahmah, they grow up with a relationship with Sharia that will allow them to grow Sharia binding, living by the teachings of Sharia. But that's what you teach them about Sharia. Much of the Sharia we teach them from a dry perspective, a dry lens. Son, you need to do Monday and Thursday. Why? I don't care, the Prophet did it that way. No. We need to talk about why. We need to tell them why halal is halal the way it is. We need to tell them why we have to lower our gaze. Why? Not that they have to do it. From the concept of adl and the concept of rahmah. Number three, another opportunity. The life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam is an amazing opportunity for your children to grow up Muslims and live Islam and die as Muslims. The life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an opportunity. How he was as a parent, as a spouse, as a son, as a prophet, as a friend, as a teacher, and as a statesman. Another opportunity. We live in the age of technology and information, my brothers and my sisters. Which means for our children, it's an opportunity. How do we use and help them use this age of technology and technology in a manner that will bring them closer to Islam and help them introduce Islam to non-Muslims in a positive way. I'm trying to be very brief so that we can go to Salah on time, inshallah. Next opportunity. Our kids now have more access to scholars than ever before. They have more access to scholars than ever before. I grew up in a small village in Palestine with access to only 3. But now imagine in this area how many people, how many scholars you have access to. But also on the internet, you can have access to thousands of Muslim scholars from all over the world. This is an opportunity. How to encourage our students, our children, our youth to learn how to access and what scholars to access. Scholars who are all over the world. This is an opportunity. Next, mental health therapy. We grew up many years ago. I grew up in an age, in an era where mental health was seen as a taboo. No one talks about it. Actually, it is wrong for anyone to say, I am seeing a therapist. Mental health is an important thing to talk about. Our kids must be encouraged to find therapists, to talk to engage with, to help them. This is an opportunity that many of our parent generation did not have access to, but our kids do. I know that in your area there are so many Muslim therapists who provide therapy to young men and women and to parents. This is an opportunity that has to be taken seriously. Actually, I have been saying for almost 3 years now, every masjid, they should hire an imam, and with the imam, at least one mental health therapist full-time. At least one, if not 2 and 3. One imam may be enough, but one therapist may not be enough. Much of what imams do would do better with the presence of a mental health specialist. So when the community works on their budget, I know we have the president here of this community, when you work on your budget, that should be in the budget. If you have one now, that's great. If you have 2, that will be much better. If you can have 3, that will be much better. Mental health, my friends, is an opportunity. It will help our kids deal with so many of those challenges I spoke about. Islamophobia, bullying, the unconditioning of what happens at home, self-respect, suicide. So much of this stuff can be encountered with the presence of mental health in the Muslim community, and therefore I ask you to take that seriously. Another opportunity for young Muslim men and women. Again, I grew up in a generation when we were told medicine is the only thing you can do, or engineering. Young brothers and sisters, there are so many new fields in science out there. You don't need to become a doctor to be a good Muslim. You don't need to become, and with my respect to engineers in the room, there's so many of them, don't chase me out. But believe me, it's much better to allow your child to study what he or she wants to study, not what you want them to study. You need to engage them. You need to be open up to them and with them. You need to allow them to engage you on those topics. So you don't need to do these traditional fields of medicine or engineering. Recently I was speaking to someone about environmental engineering. What? Environmental, what is that about? International law, biomedical engineering, and many other fields that are new in the market. My daughter studied at Georgetown a field called Peace and Justice Studies. Quite interesting. So expose yourself, open yourself to those other new fields. These are opportunities in many new universities that are meant for the new generation of young men and women. Another challenge, travel. Young men and women, it's good to travel outside of your town, especially if you are in college. I'm not talking about high school. Parents, I'm not, but it's important for, I think, college students to find time, at least for one semester in their degree, undergrad, to travel outside of the United States of America. Go to Egypt, go to Morocco, go to Pakistan, go to Kashmir, go to Uzbekistan, go to somewhere else to learn about Islam somewhere else, to learn about Muslims somewhere else, to learn about your own field, whether it's in medicine or chemistry or science or whatever it is, somewhere outside of your safe haven, if you will. I saw that in my own 4 kids. Every time they traveled outside of the United States, outside of college, they became better in their relationship with me, but also their understanding of themselves and their ability to even excel in their own schools and in their own grades. And I think we, the parents, should allow our kids and encourage them to do that. Don't worry, they will be good. If you taught them Quran and Hadith and Sharia, if you show them love and care and kindness, if you are there to embrace them, to allow them to talk, they will be okay, inshallah. Keep them in your dua. The Quran says, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Travel in the earth so that you may learn. So that you may learn. I think that should be something even masajid could do. Imagine if every masjid every year does take a group of 20 or 30 or 40 young men and women to Uzbekistan, to Bukhara, to Samarkand, to learn about the history of Islam in that area, or in Morocco, or in Spain, or in other places. That is really, really important. I'm about to finish. Another good opportunity for young men and women, when in the last 40 years, many of our masajid were built based on ethnic background. Pakistani masjid and Bengali masjid and Arab masjid, Albanian masjid, African American masjid, and you name it, or Jama'ah Islamiyya masjid and Sufi masjid, and this is the truth. Our young men and women, our young children, have the opportunity to go beyond that, to transcend those boundaries. They come to the masjid. So you see our children from every background studying with kids from every background. This is an opportunity to unite the ummah. So how can we as masajid organize programs to help our children learn the value of unity and transcending ethnic boundaries that we have parents created for them. When it comes to marriage, we parents must be open to having our children marry out of our culture. I know some of you, the parents, may not like that, but I wallahi believe from my experience as an imam, as someone who does nikah almost every other week, as someone who does marital counseling and premarital counseling, my brothers and my sisters, the parents, you should be open to having your child marry someone outside of your culture, as long as it is within the boundaries of Islam. Within the boundaries of Islam. We need to challenge ourselves as parents. And kids, I think, should be open to that. But you do that only in consultation with your parents, not away from your parents. I think I'm about to finish. These are the challenges and opportunities. A few things I want to just put on the table here before we open the door for questions and answers. We need to build institutions in the community that are capable of doing everything I said. We need to teach our children to be proud of their faith and give them the institutions that will allow them to learn the authentic message of Islam, so that they may stay within the folds of Islam and not run away from Islam. The last one, we need to provide our children with the right balanced education about Islam. Jazakumullah khair. It's 7:45. Let's take 15 minutes for questions and answers, inshallah. Or you might have something you want to say other than what I said and contribute to it. Agree or disagree, everything is okay. Do not be shy. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Just a question, maybe a couple of questions. So, your comment about marrying outside the culture, how about marrying outside the religion, but still people of the book? And also some people say halal and people of the book. Any comment there?
What I meant to discuss really, should my Hyderabadi son, something just happened with me a few weeks ago, marry only someone from Hyderabad? Or my Palestinian son from the city of Nablus find someone from the city of Nablus to marry? I think that's really too much. That's what I'm talking about.
No, I understood that.
Yeah.
My question is beyond that.
Yeah, beyond that, but that's what I'm focusing on. That within the Muslim Ummah, we should be open to doing all away from racism, because we have a lot of racism when it comes to that. Let's be honest about it. We need to challenge those racist attitudes within the Muslim Ummah in this country about how we think. Now, outside of that, I think Islam should stay within the Muslim community. Muslims marry Muslims. Even Muslim men, I encourage them to marry Muslim women. You don't want a non-Muslim woman raising your children in this country of ours on values that are not authentically Muslims. As I said earlier, my children are the most valuable, and Allah will ask me on the day of judgment about them. So to give my kids to a woman who has no appreciation of those Quranic values and the prophetic values, for me, is rather dangerous, sad, and we must walk away from it. Someone could say, Imam Hindi, what about the Quran and what the Quran says, marrying from Ahl al-Kitab? I understand the ayah, but I believe the context is rather important in terms of how we understand those ayat. Some of these kitabiyat the Quran is talking about were also within the culture. So even if they were not Muslims, they were Jews and Christians, but they were fully aware of the culture, respectful of the culture, and appreciated the culture and the values of Islam. In this case, it's okay. But in the context of what I have seen in the United States of America in the last 5 years of marriages outside of Islam, and kids broken, and the marriage broken, and regretfulness of why I did that, I think that's an issue that I would not be ready to encourage. And as an Imam, I decided 7 years ago to never perform those kinds of weddings. You can do it. I'm not telling you it's haram. I am not in no position to do haram and calling it haram. But I will not do it because I know the danger of it on us, on our children, and on the Ummah. And we need to train our kids on the importance of keeping marriage within the folds of the Muslim community. However, we need much training of our children of what marriage is, the values of marriage, and the importance of marriage, and what it means to be married, taking this marriage very, very, very seriously as a sacred act witnessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I hope that answers the question. Jazakallah khair. Other questions? Yes, sister.
I just would like to make some comments about some of those topics that you discussed. Like, some of them really resonated with me.
You want to make a comment?
Yeah.
Come. I want to learn from you.
No, I just wanted to.
No, please try. We want to learn from each other.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I just wanted to, some of the things that you mentioned resonated with me in the sense, I grew up in a small town, whatnot, and my parents, my dad, like when you said, oh, we cook together, whatnot, my dad is very big on, he loves to cook. So he would, if there is Eid, he would make a big batch of biryani, and then we have neighbors and friends. Not necessarily. And
is he alive?
He is.
I'm coming. I am coming to visit.
But my brother is here. He got that from him. So he makes
Where's your
alhamdulillah.
brother?
Right there.
MashaAllah. We are coming for dinner tonight.
The best biryani, and my kids are spoiled because of him.
MashaAllah, this is wonderful.
Any biryani they eat, they want only uncle's
So this
biryani.
proves the point.
Yeah, that's why
We watch our parents.
yeah. It resonated totally with me, and also, like, you know, how you said you give them the values and leave them alone. So from the age of 16, I've been out of the house because of college, and then I grew up in a small town in India, and then I moved to United States when I finished my college when I was 23. So I came all by myself, and alhamdulillah, in our community, it's like when the girls are finish college, find a good match and get them out of the house. But then my dad said, no, my girls are going to get their education and they would do what they want to do. So I think that really helped me. But now, as a mother, I do have some of the challenges going on, which totally resonated with me again. I have both of my daughters here, and I know if my middle schooler don't want to look at me, it's like, you know, it's a constant struggle, like, you know, phone and what you're watching, what books you want to read. And then she wanted to pick up a couple of books from the library. I said, let me read it first, like I want to check the content. And then she's like, you know, Mom, you don't have to scream. I said, no, I've been in your shoes, what goes on? And, you know, that's another fear. Now there is so much availability, but when I was growing up, it was not the case. So that's the other thing that resonated. But definitely the way I learned Quran, like before, it's like memorize whatnot. Now I am in the journey of understanding and trying to implement what we are learning, kind of. So some or the other time we come to masjid, we go to the youth program at Evergreen, and we come back and we have a discussion like, you know, hey, what was the 2 things that you learned and what you wanted to share? And trust me, it's a constant struggle about clothes, about the brands, about what they want to watch. Hopefully we all are in this together, and I'm so blessed to have this place. We've been living in San Jose for the last 13 years, so I came to know this place about a few months ago. So it's like such a blessing to have a place to come and learn the community and meet the people. So thank you.
Give our sister a big hand, please. MashaAllah. I want to comment on your comment. Number 1, trust. A good relationship with children, again, someone who have raised 400 very successful kids, trust. Never allow that trust to be broken. And if it was broken, mend it, work on it to come back. No relationship, whether it's husband-wife or parent-child or sibling with sibling, can work without trust. You need to build that trust and keep it alive. Number 2, we need to master the art of listening to our parents. Do you hear me, young kids? We need to master the art of listening to our parents as much as we want our parents to master the art of listening to us. It is not fair. Your dad could tell you that too. It is not fair. So who's not fair you are going to hear? The way is sit back, master the art of listening, understanding what your parents telling you without preparing a response before they even finish the sentence. And many of us do that. The third thing I want to say, according to science, women mature between the age, complete their maturity between the age 22 to 23. Men finish their maturity between the age of 24 to 26. Why? Allah created us that way. What does this really mean in communicating with your child? Never expect your daughter at the age 18 to be the full daughter you want her to be, to understand you the way you want her to understand you. Give her the time to grow, please, in her way. Listen, talk, teach, discuss, walk with. However, she's not going to be exactly what you want. Scientifically, she cannot. You cannot push the envelope. So is your son. You cannot expect your son out of college to be what you want him to be. He still has another 2 to 3 years to actually mature according to science. Decisions are made in this area, in our heads, yes, in our brains. This area matures in that very way. So we need to keep that in mind, because sometimes we push our luck with our children and we think they're not listening to us when they cannot listen to us in the way we want them to listen to us. Because if you think they're not listening to you, then you are going to break the trust and you are not going to listen to them. You are going to start a fight and you are going to go to a direction that you don't want them to go. Keep that in mind with much patience and patience and patience. Other questions or a remark? Yes? Anyone? Yes, sister in the back. A question or a remark?
Question.
Okay.
What are the halal ways that Muslim kids at college are having fun nowadays? Because when I went to college, there were two sets of Muslim kids. One set was just really religious in the masjid, and the other set was out partying, clubbing, mixed relationships. So nowadays it's like an in between. What are you seeing?
If I heard you correctly, halal dating? Having fun. I thought halal dating, because now the new college term that we hear all the time, what is halal dating? It is a very tough question. It's not easy. At the end of the day, the parents have their own expectations that have to be honored. I really believe that. And those expectations of the parents have to be made very clear to the children, and the children have to honor them. So for me, that's the golden rule. Now, mixing of genders under the age of 18 is so dangerous, unguarded, and could lead to undesirable acts that we have seen in the Muslim community. And therefore, I would say no. However, programs that are organized by parents should be done within the parameters of Islam that allow men and women to engage in a healthy way without false separation, considering the fact that when they go to high school, they're going to mix with everyone else. So why not with their fellow Muslims in the same community? This is my belief, and some people could disagree with me, and I appreciate that. But I rather my kids deal with other Muslim kids within specific parameters I create. When I know about it, they know where I stand and don't stand, rather than saying absolute separation, because that's not going to work with them. In college, I tell our Muslim students that as well. No Muslim young man and young woman should stay alone in a room. It's un-Islamic, unacceptable. It breaks it dishonors the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, to have an MSA gathering of men and women who engage one another and learn from one another and get to know one another respectfully, I think that's acceptable, considering the context in which we live in the United States of America and considering the culture of schools that they go to. I hope that answers the question. I know we need to finish. It's almost 8. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you, my brothers and my sisters. Let us take a minute to make dua for our brothers and sisters in Gaza, inshallah. يا رحمن ويا رحيم يا عزيز يا كريم يا واحد يا أحد يا فرد يا صمد يا عالما بحالنا عليك اتكالنا أتيناك سائلين على بابك واقفين فلا تردنا خائبين. O Allah, the one of mercy, have mercy on our brothers and sisters in Gaza and in Palestine. Ya Allah, the one of power, grant our brothers and sisters the power to resist and keep going. Ya Allah, you are Al-Jabbar, the one who mends what is broken. Mend what is broken in our brothers and sisters' relationships in Palestine. Bring them back fully healed. Say Ameen. Ya Allah, you are the one who hears all things, who sees all things. Hear the cries of our brothers and listen to the cries of our sisters and brothers in Gaza. And respond in the way, Ya Allah, you see fit. Ya Allah, grant them victory, grant them protection, grant them victory, grant them protection from beneath them, from above them, and from all directions. Ya Allah, those who have passed away and been murdered, accept them into Al-Firdaus Al-Ala. And those who have survived the genocides and the ethnic cleansing going on, give them the patience to keep going, the ability to persist and consistently keep going. Ya Allah, those of us who are watching from far away, give us the ability to speak up, to tell the truth, and to promote their cause. Ya Allah, help us never become morally numb, ethically numb, emotionally numb, or spiritually numb from those images that we see every day. Give us the wisdom to stand up and the strength to stand up, to rely on no one, Ya Allah, but you. Protect our Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Ameen.
Protect our Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Ameen.
Protect our Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Ameen.
And the lives of all of those who are protecting it, men and women. Allahumma Ameen. Jazakumullah khair.